Welcome to New York Got Game. Boom shakalaka.
All right, what's good, everybody? Welcome to New York Got Game, Knicks Weekly Live. Your boy Dexter Henry, alongside Bryan Fonseca. Bryan, what's going on, man?
Doing pretty well. I mean, birthday's tomorrow, so you already
that's
know.
right. That's right.
Can't complain.
Well, maybe the Knicks get a win on your birthday. Not that you're rooting for that to happen, but that would be nice for the Knicks fans.
I'm not rooting against it either. I don't know which way I'm betting on it yet. I don't know if I'm betting on it yet, but I may go out for dinner and catch the game depending on how cold it is.
You should go out for dinner. May go out for dinner. You should go out for dinner.
Yeah. Well, it depends on the weather because there's rumors of snow this weekend.
This is true.
We got to see what's up, and also not for nothing, but winter is back this year.
No. I'm glad we're starting off talking about this before we get to the Knicks. Winter is back. Winter's come back and smacked us all in the face. Not giving a damn at all whatsoever. Has anybody been outside in the last 3 days?
Thank you to everyone who's watching this. You're probably sick. Also,
maybe
you've probably gotten sick.
If you've been home and you've been sick, that's good. Because it is, as what we New Yorkers say, it is brick outside. This is brick weather, okay? Yeah. It is ridiculous. Yesterday, I went outside. I wasn't too far from your neck of the woods, Bryan. I went to get a haircut. I stopped someplace before. I went to shout out to A1 Record Shop on the lower east of the East Village.
Oh, so this is old stomping grounds for me. Former stomping grounds.
Yes, your former stomping grounds. Yes. Sorry, I forgot about that.
Still, that's
my bad.
My family.
I was around your former stomping grounds, and I had to do a walk to the train after I left the record store to then head over to around your old stomping grounds. And that walk was not fun. That walk was not fun. I looked like I was crying, and I wasn't crying.
That was me. That was me the other day. I was walking to. I'm not gonna give out my address or anything like that. But it's a fairly popular area of Queens.
And you were crying down that street.
I was crying going. I was meeting up with my brother. I was crying over there because we had to run some errands or whatever the case may be. I was tearing up when I got to him. He was like, "The hell's wrong with you?" He didn't say hell. He was like, "The hell's wrong with you?" And I was like, "Bro, it's cold.
It's cold. It's cold out here. I don't even want to know what your face looked like.
It wasn't this. It wasn't like this before. We barely got snow. We've already gotten snow multiple times.
We've had some pretty mild winters, but it's been cold. But hey, this is the time where it's good for some basketball watching weather. That's what I'd say. It's good to have some basketball watching weather when you don't want to be outside. And look, it's been an interesting time talking about the Knicks. The last time we talked to you guys on this live show, everybody was excited about the matchup with the Thunder. The Knicks have won 9 straight games, and the Knicks lost that game to the Thunder. And then they lost 2 more games after that. They fell to the Bulls, and they fell to the Magic without their top 4 scorers on Monday. Now, I don't know about you, but over the last couple of days, if you've been paying attention to Knicks Twitter or anywhere on Knicks social media, some of y'all been jumping out the window. It's felt like it's been the end of the world. Have there been concerns? Yeah. Not saying we're going to get into those concerns on the show.
We will.
We have our guy, Josue Pavón, joining us from Clutch Points, fantastic reporter covering the Thunder. So we're going to talk about the rematch between the Thunder and the Knicks, which is going down on Friday night at MSG. I will be in the building for that one. Should be a good atmosphere. Will be Bryan's birthday. We'll see what happens there. But the good news is the Knicks, they end their 3-game losing streak, Bryan. They defeat the Raptors on Wednesday night. Looked a little shaky at first, but in the fourth quarter, Knicks did what they had to do. Does this quiet some of the concerns that we saw during this 3-game losing streak that people had, that some people were jumping out the window? Or are you still like, I need to see more when they play the Thunder on Friday?
Yeah, it's probably the latter for me. I don't jump out of the window ever, first of all. But also, second of all, I'm not jumping out of the window after just a few regular season games. But I'll say this, and this is probably a question I would ask you. Are you more worried about what you saw in those 3 games, or are you more just relieved / not really concerned given what you saw in the bounce back effort against the Toronto Raptors?
Look,
I'll put it like this.
I'll put it like this. I don't mean it. I think the Knicks are too good, and it was way too early to be talking about must wins. But yesterday was one like, yo, you better take care of business.
Yeah.
Or else. Now, I'm not really sure what the or else is. I'm not really sure about that. But I think y'all feel what I'm saying.
Blow it up.
Yeah. You can't blow it up.
Yeah.
But I think that's what it is. Shout out to Knicks 100 a game. You are back, sir, with the energy. What did I tell y'all? Not focus or discipline.
We'll get to that.
A losing streak was going to come. You thought they was not going to have a 2 or 3 game losing streak this year? Did you really think that was going to happen?
First 3 game losing streak of the season. First one since late March of last year. But I saw some things. Let's get into it. I saw some things that weren't great. Well, the Oklahoma City one in particular is the one we're probably focused more on. That was in Oklahoma City. And they're going to play Oklahoma City again. And that's where Josue, our guy who used to cover the Celtics, so like we go back with Josue. It's going to be a fun conversation when he's on.
Let me
that's
say
the one for me where
let me say this more. I came encouraged from the Oklahoma City game, and we texted about that after the game. I was more encouraged from that game. However, it doesn't mean there's not a concern from the game. And the concern for that game was we were texting about and agreed, and I tweeted something you told me, lack of depth, right? Reared its ugly head.
Yes.
Now, where I think you're going, and you tell me if I'm wrong to connect the dots here. Okay, the next game against Chicago, you see them up, 9 or 10 at halftime, and they just ran out of gas. Just straight ran out of gas.
Third quarter was awful.
So it was a symptom in a back-to-back of the issue we saw in the previous game. Lack of depth hurt them against OKC in a game where they didn't have Miles McBride. Then the next night, you're relying on your starters, and we'll get to this later with Tom Thibodeau's. And the Menace Police, I know y'all here. I know y'all going to come out here.
You might accuse me of being on the Menace Police.
Man.
I have some numbers for you.
Oh, man. Hector, what's up, man? What's going on? Hector from Uptown Sports TV. Appreciate my guy, Hector. Yes. There, your fellow Borwico in the building. Yes. Look, I think there are symptomatic problems. This is why I wasn't cutting you off, Bryan. I just want to say, I think the problems are symptomatic in what you might have been concerned about in the Friday night loss last week to the Thunder, then carrying over to what you saw in Chicago. Now, Monday, that was just inexcusable. I don't have anything for you for that.
Orlando at home. Without Karl-Anthony Towns, but Orlando's
no Karl-Anthony Towns, no Miles McBride. They didn't have their top 4 scorers. You got to win that game.
Yes. No Paolo Banchero, no Franz Wagner.
Right. You got to win that game. You got to win that game. Bad job.
They started Caleb Houston.
That is clear. That is by far the worst Knicks loss of the season. If my guy Knicks 100 a game wants to be mad at that loss, I feel you. Worst loss of the season. I'm with you.
Wow. Okay.
It's at least the most disappointing.
Let's work our way there because Oklahoma City real quick, and we'll get into this more with Josue. But Oklahoma City first. I thought they were going to lose that game, to be fair. They looked great in the first 3 quarters, or at least really good in the first 3 quarters, and then they just died in the fourth. That was a concern for me. All their starters played 40-plus minutes. Nobody from Oklahoma City played beyond like 38. And you had really only 2 guys that played beyond 33, gilgeous-alexander and Jalen Williams. And if you look at the game, in the fourth quarter in particular, like there were times where like Aaron Wiggins gets an offensive rebound and nobody's boxing him out. It was Landry Shamet's responsibility. He's dribbling out and he draws multiple defenders. And then you have Jalen Williams who shot the 3 and he's cutting to the basket and gets a dunk on Josh Hart and OG Anunoby, which wasn't really contested. Karl-Anthony Towns was on Jalen Williams at the time where he takes a step back 3-pointer that's contested. And Jalen Williams sees that Karl-Anthony Towns is going to be a step slow. So he just cuts in to the middle of the lane and gets that dunk. And it sort of reignites the crowd. They cut the lead to within 4. And from there, I was like, Oklahoma City's about to come back. And Aaron Wiggins, here's the thing, Dex. Like, we can talk about Aaron Wiggins, if they play again, which they are going to tomorrow, is not going to shoot 4 for 4 from 3 again. But all the threes were wide open. Like there was a play where they brought the ball up in transition and Aaron Wiggins is wide open. You have 4 guys on this side of the court. If Jalen Brunson's over here, you have OG Anunoby. Like they all have their man. And as soon as Aaron Wiggins gets the ball wide open on the left wing, Josh Hart is throwing his hands up because there was no one on him, no one anywhere near him. Every Aaron Wiggins 3 was open in that quarter. And it also looked like they were getting out hustled. They lost the rebounding battle by a lot that quarter. They lost the assist battle by a lot that quarter. And this is something that you see again in the Bulls' third quarter of that game, because it looks like, I don't know if it's just minutes, but they look tired on some of these possessions.
Yeah, look, yes,
You
for
know, they
sure.
just
Absolutely.
look gas, and it's almost like we both love Terrence Crawford, for example. And the reason why Terrence Crawford, for people who don't know, is arguably the best boxer in the world. That may be Alexander Usyk right now, but he's been pound for pound top whatever for years. And part of what makes Terrence Crawford really good is that he can be patient and feel you out for a few rounds before taking over and dominating and eventually stopping you. And I feel like teams are kind of playing the Knicks in that way, where it's like, all right, we can take their best shot early, but then later on, we'll get the fourth or third quarter, get them tired, and we'll be able to survive. And if we can survive that late blitz offensively, because the Knicks still have a great offense, then we can win the game. And it's almost like trying to use the fact that they have their best players out there all the time against them. So I think there's a concern there, because we're halfway through the season roughly, and we keep talking about you have 5 guys in terms of top whatever in minutes. And I think that's something to watch, because to me, you do have to do something about your depth. I think the minutes police, if we want to call it that, like there are some people going overboard, but I do think like the depth is the big concern for me. Like
Yeah.
you have to be able to trust these guys more, and it's a chicken and the egg thing, because Tom Thibodeau is probably like, hey, you guys have to show me why I should put you out on the floor.
Which I talked to Stephen Bondi about that this week on this week's episode of New York Got Game. We talked about that. He used that exact term, the chicken or the egg thing here, right? Which is it? Is it that players earn their minutes and time on the court because of the trust that you get from them in practice? Or do players earn some of your trust by maybe getting some minutes in the court against lesser opponents, so that maybe you can trust a Tyler Kolek if needed? You can trust Ariel Hawk-Purdy if needed. You can trust Pacome Dadier. One of the things our good friend from True Hoop, Gerard Hector, always says is like, give these guys minutes. He's a big believer in this, right? Give them minutes, because what happens if you see what happened to the Knicks last year, where you have injuries late in the season? Well, now you know those guys have something to go back to, some game situation they played, even if it's against lesser opponents that isn't just garbage time, right? Like, so this is it. Are you laughing at Knicks 100?
Yeah. Knicks 100 with Terrence Crawford slander. Come on. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah. Come on. Come on. See, Knicks 100 a game. You just got to be trolling. I love you.
If he beat Errol Spence by a split decision,
Yeah.
then okay. But like, he beat the hell out of
You
him.
let
Like-
Spence rush for a year and a half. That was his fault? Come on. Okay. Anyway,
yeah. Come on.
I think that the depth concern is real. I'm not trying to poo-poo that. We'll get into this later. I'm not sure what, and it's not going to please a lot of Knicks fans. I'm not sure what they can legitimately do about it this year. Everybody's like, Dexter will trade Mitch, as if it's easy to trade Mitch, as if his value is high. He does not have high trade value, and this is being reported. There are some people that have been interested. Ian Begley's reported this.
Yes, yeah.
But come on. Now he's calling your boy Terrence Crawford a con artist here. He's calling him a con artist. Oh, man. Yo, you know what I know that Knicks 100 a game would never do? Tell Terrence Crawford to his face that he's a con artist. That wouldn't happen.
Terrence Crawford in person. People think he's bigger than you think, is what I'll say. Yeah.
Yeah. He's whooping feet. Word to Kendrick Lamar.
Yes.
I think though you're right. The concerns were there in that game, and I think specifically what you mentioned about teams looking at it as the game. The book is open on the Knicks, where it's like, okay, we can wear them down, and we can get to them because they're going to use a lot of their starters, especially good defensive teams. I'm not saying this to take credit away from what OKC did, because OKC is they're the best defensive team in the league. They're a fantastic defensive team in the league, and they're playing at another level, which the Knicks have to get to. But part of getting to the other level, which what Bryan is talking about, and I agree, is you have to be able to buy some time so your best players can be fresh down the stretch, so they can execute at their highest level against the other team's best. When it comes to high-level opponents, this stuff matters, guys. It matters a ton. It really matters. You really have to have that. So I think you're seeing some of the fatigue. Jalen Brunson doesn't look like himself right now. He's been a little off the last couple of games. I'm not worried about Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson's fine, right? I keep saying this to people. This is not NBA 2K. You cannot play without fatigue, right? This is kind of goes to our point too. No, you're not playing without injuries. There are going to be ups and downs in the season. Things are going to happen. Troy NYC here says Tibbs only lets rookies play after injuries or talent is traded. Case in point, Deuce did it with Jimmy Butler too. Okay, but what about Emmanuel Quickley? What about Quentin Grimes? That's like, no disrespect, Troy. That's just not true. Obi Toppin played as a rookie. Like, the notion that Tibbs doesn't play rookies at all or hasn't played young players actually isn't true. Like, there's things in his tenure as a Knicks coach where he has done it. As I just mentioned, Emmanuel Quickley played as a rookie. Emmanuel Quickley got rotation minutes as a rookie, which shows you Tibbs's philosophy. I'm not saying I always agree with it 100%, is you got to show it to me in practice. Emmanuel Quickley impressed so much in practice and in the preseason games, he had no choice but to put him into rotation.
Here's a question that I have for you. Is there anyone on the bench, realistically, who you think needs to be unlocked? Like, if Tibbs actually gives them the extended run, 20 minutes a game or whoever it is, other than Deuce McBride, is there someone who could actually push them to a new level in terms of depth, or is whatever they have to do to improve their bench not on their roster? Do they have to just take another avenue as opposed to like just playing Ariel Hawkporty more or Tyler Kolek more?
It's funny. I think the guy that probably could push him if they could, and all reports were that the Knicks did like what they saw from him, was Pacome Dadier. They could use another wing who could help stretch the floor, and his shooting, I think that could help us more. I'd probably say him or Kolek would be likely more of the answer. Like, I guess what's this coming down? This is what it comes down to. Do you think that, because this, there's the play Kolek crowd out there. Do you think the Tyler Kolek minutes are going to be that much better than the campaign minutes? I'm asking you, Bryan.
Also, for one, I would say no. And for the second thing, in a playoff series, I'm going to feel comfortable playing Tyler Kolek as, I don't know, my eighth man. Like, am I going to, like, no, not really. Not right now. I think you need depth to win a championship, because every team who has won an NBA title, yes, they've had stars, they've had players who are great at the top of their roster, but they can go 7, 8, 9 deep if they have to. And I don't have the confidence that this team can. That being said, look, they're comfortably third in the East right now, so we're not saying like they're bad or whatever the case may be, but that little losing streak and what we've seen really throughout the season, it's hard to believe whatever is going to help their bench the most is currently on their roster, other than just giving guys a chance and seeing what's up. But if Tom Thibodeau, like, I'll defer to him because, I mean, he's a great head coach. Like, if he's not going to play these dudes, if they haven't earned the minutes in his eyes, then okay, like, I kind of get it, because at the end of the day, like, there's no one, and I think the minutes are an issue that they're playing their starters too much, but there's no one on the bench where I'm like, this guy absolutely has to be playing more. Whereas I can go around other teams and I'm looking at their bench and I'm like, this team has to play this person more. This team has to play this person more. I'm not getting that here.
To that point, I'm like, just to the Knicks fans that are on the minutes police that are not saying that. And listen, I saw Troy, and Greg, I'm gonna get to your comment in 1 second. I saw Troy say Kolek has shown potential even for a few minutes. I don't disagree with you, and I like Tyler Kolek. When I was at Summer League, I talked to CP, the franchise, and I were out there talking about Kolek. I talked with Stephen Bondi when I was out there. I liked what I saw about him. I think he has a good feel for the game. Don't disagree with you, Troy, at all whatsoever. And I appreciate you, brother. Don't disagree with you. He said, we're not in the playoffs now. The point is to give people a break when the team is up by 20 plus in the fourth. Hey.
They haven't had a 20-point lead that often lately.
Oh, but now, have there been some points where Tibbs has been wilding and he needs to pull guys? Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yes. Like Troy's not wrong.
But that's where Troy makes a good point.
Yeah, this is where Troy's not wrong on this, right? Like, there's some points where Tibbs has been wilding. And I'm like,
I'm talking more so about the close games.
Yeah. Yes. How about the other night against Chicago where Towns is killing in the fourth and the game is out of reach with like 2 minutes to go, and Towns is in there and he had hurt his knee, and then he goes for that layup and gets the and one, and I'm like, why is Towns still in the game? So even if it's the other way, even if you're down and the game is clearly over, even if there's a 0.5% chance you can win that game, is it worth it? You know what I'm saying? Like,
when you're Tibbs, this is always
and that's where I agree with the people in saying like, that's a bit too much.
Yes,
now, I'm sorry. Could you, Jeff? Could you bring Greg's question back up? Because Greg had a point there that I wanted to address that he has said before. Greg says, "What's up, fellas? With Cat being the final big swing piece, Tibbs has developed the young guys to spell the starters. You can't get better on the bench. The Thunder are a great example for New York. Now, I do think there's some differences between the Thunder and New York. One place is Oklahoma City, and you had a GM who basically kind of did what Sam Presti did. Excuse me, not Sam Presti did. What's my guy in Philly that did the process? Why am I blanking on his name? Anyway, basically they were tanking to lose, right, and get all these picks. And
Colangelo, right?
It was after Colangelo, man. It'll come to me, right? Anyway,
I can't remember this.
trying to get all these picks. I'm my apologies on the blank. I'm trying to get all these picks, and they've been able to do it in a way without they don't have the pressure here. I'm not saying you can't rebuild in New York. Clearly, the Knicks have rebuilt. They just have done it in a different way. Sam Hinkie, thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it. Sam
There it is.
Sam Hinkie. So I understand all that. I think two things can be true. I am more in the Gerard camp, who I mentioned before. There is a way to find, and I think this is a little bit of what Troy is saying and Greg are saying. I'm kind of combining two people where I don't want Troy to think I disagreed with him as much as he may think. I think that there is a space when you're up big or stealing some minutes in the first half to give some guys some minutes so that they can learn, get some game situations. So, like I said, you never know. You get depleted. What if Campaign goes down in injury? Well, next up is Tyler Kolek. Is he ready? Well, we're going to find out. But you might ease that process into him getting ready if that comes about. This is a good discussion around the Knicks and the depth. We're going to talk more about it in the show because we have our guest with us right now. He is somebody, like we said, we go back. He used to cover a division rival here in New York. He used to cover the Celtics, but now he is covering the Thunder for Clutch Points. It's our guy, Josue Pavón, who joins us now. Josue, what's good?
Fellas? I'm good, man. How y'all doing? How's everything?
Josue, did you move from Boston?
I did, man. I gotta stay close to this team, Bryan. I did, and believe it or not, it looks like Boston outside right now, man. We got like 3 or 4 inches of snow. I'm like, I literally woke up. I was staring at my window, like I can't believe it. I thought I got away from this, but anyways, I thought it was perfect timing for today to be kicking it with my New York guys, and it looks like New York out here in OKC. I didn't know this happens out here. It's crazy.
It's brick out here though. Like the wind has been crazy the last couple of days,
as it should be. Dex, but in OKC, I thought it'd be a little different, a little warmer. I thought it'd be a little warmer.
I
thought wrong.
I understand it. How are you liking OKC coming from the Northeast going to Oklahoma City? How are you liking that experience?
Is there?
It's cool, shock? Man. I mean, yes and no. It's not quite like Boston, but it's its own metropolitan. I put it that way, right? People are like, "Oh, so you chilling in the farms?" I'm like, relax. I'm not in like Oklahoma. Okay, it's a city. All right, you got the city vibes for sure, but just much smaller city. All right, you might have to wait. I don't know. 6-7 minutes to get through security at the airport. Your gate's right there, so it's different in that regard. Much smaller market, which I think is great in terms of the conversation that was going on between the fans of Cleveland and the fans of Oklahoma City. Like what a game those two put on from such small markets. And they've come a long way to be in this situation, and they're going to be in a good spot for a while. I think it's a good place. It's a good time for the NBA right now. Some people may not love it, the narrative out there, but the too much 3-point shooting and all that. But at least we're gone. At least we're not still in the super team era. That was a while, man. And I feel like this is a good place for the NBA to be at. With the second apron and all that stuff.
I agree. I don't love the apron stuff, but I agree with you on the play and the balance. I think what's crazy for you is you just came from covering a team that won a championship, and you have a legitimate chance to cover another team in a different conference that could win a championship. I do. Yo, you know what Knicks fans are saying right now? Can you come cover the Knicks? That's what
the city
right now.
They might be next. No, that would be fun. But no, man,
we like you back here.
I'd be lying. I appreciate that. No, man, I'd be lying if I told you guys that wasn't a big part of my decision, man. Because I've been watching this team the last couple of years. I mean, we all have been, right, with the assets and everything that they collected. That insane Paul George trade that keeps on giving. I mean, it's unbelievable how much of that has turned into the team we see today. And they're still going, right? They still got picks coming down the pike. But yeah, man, I just was so fascinated by it. It's such a young team, you know. A lot of these players have only been in the league for a few years or so, and some of them had to really, really grind to get into the position that they are now. You know, second round players, guys that came up through the G League. You know, it's just a tight knit group. Mark Dagnall, you know, coming off of winning Coach of the Year, and man, his vision, the way he's got these guys committed and focused, it's fascinating to me, man. So I wanted to obviously, you know, start a new chapter in my career and you know, covering this team and just see how it all plays out, man. I'm really excited about it.
Nah, you should be excited.
We were just talking about Knicks Thunder round 1, if you will, from last week. What stood out to you the most? Because we were talking about the Knicks, like depth issues and the fact that they played every starter 40 plus minutes and they looked flat in the fourth quarter, which is where OKC went on this blitz. OKC has been tremendous at just ending games this year.
Yeah.
What's the thing that stood out to you the most from that game and may or may not carry over into the second game that we're going to see tomorrow?
Just kind of what you just alluded to, man. I mean, like that, the way they just flipped the switch in the second half, and it's funny because Mark Dagnall doesn't like that term. It's like, no, man, this is just what we do. You know, we make changes, but it is flipping a switch. We saw it Sunday against the Celtics. You know, against the champs, man. That was incredible. You know, you hold them to 27 points in the second half, 12 points in the fourth quarter. Yep. I mean, they've been doing this, but seeing them do it obviously against the champs and against, you know, top tier teams is incredible. I think that's really what it boils down to, man. This is the best team. This is the best defensive team in the NBA, no question. And it's because of stuff like that. You know, we know what they're capable offensively. You know, MVP candidate, MVP favorite, whichever you want to name it. SGA has been on a tear, and it continues with these 30-plus point performances. You know, like we saw against Cleveland. But you know, when you look at the way they were able to just stop the Knicks, you know, stop the bleeding, pull ahead, and then just keep going. You know. It's unbelievable. I mean, SGA said it. He said it best, man. He's like, man, when we're in the zone like that, it just feels like we're just. It's like a practice and it's like a scrimmage. You know, it's like we're just going through stuff and we're not going to stop until the buzzer, you know, final buzzer. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the Knicks bounce back because I do think that they're going to have that quarter, whether it's the third, which was an ongoing pattern throughout the season. Lately, it's been the fourth, but it's been the third, and then by midway through the fourth, the stars are chilling. You know, they're on the bench. You know, with the 12-point, 15-point lead. Lately, it's been the fourth quarter. Fell short against the Cavs, but I think a lot of that had to do with what they were able to do around the rim, man. You know, between Evan Mobley and former Knick Jared Allen, it's unbelievable what they're doing over there in Cleveland. How that looks in the playoffs, we'll have to wait and see. But I'm excited,
former
to find out.
Former net before the
remember net. My bad. Former net. My bad. Yeah.
Don't piss the Nets fans or the Knicks fans off.
My bad. Former net. My fault.
Yo, I want to ask you, Josue, about the game last night, which I'm in agreement with you with the NBA being in a good place, and that was a fantastic basketball game. If you don't like that game, you don't like basketball.
Give me that for the NBA. Fine.
Yeah,
well,
that was a great game.
I'm sure Knicks fans would want the Knicks to make it instead, but you know.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't even know. I don't know how the NBA would feel about that, Fonseca. But
yeah, well, you know what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen is they're going to have ratings discourse every day, and we're going to be like, the games are really good. Like, what are we talking about?
But, yeah. What from that game with the team? You know, the 15-game winning streak coming to an end there for the guys. What's the mood around them after that? Obviously, we know that's not taking in the NBA Cup final, but what's the mood around this team now that the 15-game winning streak comes to an end? They got to play the Knicks here in New York on Friday. What's the mood around the team right now?
I think it's just been relatively positive, man. To be honest, I mean, they're just ready for the next one, and to be honest with you guys, it was the same type of vibe you saw after the Celtics game. I mean, yeah, SGA and Jalen Williams had a few things to say before the game, saying like, yeah, those are the champs. Obviously, this is a big game. This isn't just like any other game. But, you know, after the fact, it was kind of like on to the next. And, you know, it's funny because, you know, Mark Dagnall was talking about how going on the road is another thing. And it's a great experience for these guys who obviously don't have a whole lot of playoff experience. I mean, their season ended last year, the second round. Not to say that kind of thing can happen this time around. But, you know, I just feel like they're constantly focused on what's in front of them, you know, so they leave whatever happened, you know, in the past, and they're ready to keep it going. You know, like going on this road trip, I think is going to be big for these guys, especially that now kind of the streak is over. You know, they can just kind of just focus on just what they've been doing all year, which is essentially just becoming a better team. And everyone playing their part in that, in the depth, and you know, with guys out like Caruso and AJ Mitchell, who, believe it or not, man, this second round pick, this rookie has been a big spark off the bench for these guys. But yet everyone just picks up where they left off. Lately it's been Wiggins, with his 3-point shot. That's been great. Casey Wallace came up big the other night, but then, it could be against the Knicks. It could be Kenrich Williams, it's just, you never know in that sense, but the depth of this team, I think it just speaks volumes to where these guys are at. Even without Chet Holmgren, obviously, 10 games into the season, he's been gone. And it's like you forget he's out.
I don't.
Maybe against the
he's
Cavs.
Killing my fantasy team. I don't forget he's out. He's been there on injured list like every day for I don't know how many weeks it's been.
I feel like we all got a few of those though. There's been so many injuries in the NBA lately. It's been crazy. But yeah, we'll see what happens when he gets back. But yeah, man, I can't wait for this one because I love when they play against a team like the Knicks, not too far removed from their last game, which really changed in that second half. I thought the Knicks. I thought you guys had him for a second. But
well,
then,
here's the thing.
You know what happened in the fourth.
I think a lot of and this is what I want to get to because I think a lot of people thought the Knicks had him. I think the Knicks, arguably in the second quarter of that game, played their best quarter of the season for the Knicks in that one. Were the Knicks? I don't know because now you could probably say the Cavs last night. Well, how good that game was. Were the Knicks the toughest Eastern Conference foe for the Thunder? Did you look at them as is that one where because of how you thought they had it and it seemed like the Knicks delivered that punch? Were they the team you look back and be like, hey, this is the toughest Eastern Conference foe they played? Or are you giving it to the Celtics? Or are you giving it to the Cavs? Who do you think is the toughest Eastern Conference matchup the Thunder face?
I got to give it to the Cavs, man. But the Knicks are right up there, Yeah, I think, honestly, I could say they gave them a harder time than the Celtics, to be honest. I mean, Jalen going scoreless obviously played a big part in that second half.
Yep.
But I just felt like the way they were able to neutralize Kristaps Porzingis was very interesting. Because that was going into that game, I was like, man, that's going to be one of those, that's going to be a big part of why the Celtics have a good chance to win this game. Obviously there's other guys as well, but having someone like that who can stretch the floor, obviously, is a great passer, really mix things up. I mean, you saw that in a big way in that first half. But when they got caught on switches, man, the guys just knew how to jump the passing lane. And it's not just Isaiah Hartenstein, right? It's the other guys. It's like the least tallest people, right? Like whether it's Casey Wallace, whether it's Lou Dort. I thought Lou Dort was incredible. Setting up those daggers that he drained in the last 2 minutes or 2.5 minutes was incredible, especially when he went 0 for 7 before he made those 3 threes. But what he does on the defense is unreal, man. Put this guy in all NBA, all defensive team this year, man. Just give it to him finally because he's proven it for sure on this top ranked defensive team where everyone does their part. But Lou takes it to another level in that second half.
Yeah, no, he definitely did. When you look at this OKC team, there's no way you can look at this team this year and not talk about SGA. It's been tremendous.
It's insane.
Is he the MVP of the league in your eyes? Some people will look and say Jokic, but I feel like now you've got the record. You're number one in the West. Is he the MVP of the league right now?
He is, man. He is. I think he's starting to create a gap, to be honest with you, man. And it's not just, again, not just the 30-plus point performances, man. He gets it done on the defensive end. He stacks up assists. He gets guys involved. His rebounding game is incredible. I mean, yeah, he's one of the taller point guards out there, but he just does a little bit of everything. I feel like everyone just follows his lead, and you have to factor in, not having Chet Holmgren out there. Bryan, you remember he was killing it when he was out there.
Yeah,
I think that continues. It's too bad, man. He got such a rare injury, man. So someone told me, man, that's an old man's injury. That's a like an elderly injury with the hip. Yeah. But man, it was a freakish fall, man. Don't listen to the hype of people thinking that he's not lifting enough or whatever. No, he's fine. He's good. He just landed awkwardly on his hip, and with him not only on this trip, but getting into drills and stuff before the Cavs game. I'd be surprised if he plays at all on this trip, but I think he's getting much closer than people are thinking. So we'll see what happens when they get back.
Well, that's good to know. My team needs to go on a run because we're not.
See, it's all about Bryan's fantasy team. It's all comes back to Bryan's
fantasy. Man. I'll give you updates, Bryan. I'll give you updates.
But this is important just from the standpoint of like how dominant, for lack of a better word, OKC's been without him there. And right. People forget, like, he was on an all-star trajectory. I mean, it was very early on, small sample size, but it looked like this team could have 3 all-stars this year when he was healthy. It looks like they're at least going to have 2 still. I want to ask you this, a couple of different things. One, is shooting a concern for you with this team? Because we've seen in sort of big spots before, this happened in the NBA Cup final, for example. And this happened really last year in that series against the Dallas Mavericks, where they were struggling to hit 3-point shots. And every now and again, you get these games where they're in the low 30s in terms of percentage, or even in the 20s. And with Oklahoma City, it's like, can you live with them? Because they're going to drive a lot. Can you live with them being able to just hurt you from the inside? Or do they need to add shooting, you feel like, between now and the trade deadline, which is about a month away at this point, to really get to that next level?
You know, it's funny you bring that up, Bryan, because, you know, when the Cam Johnson rumors came out there, man, and I'm thinking to myself, you know, man, like shooting 42%, you know, get another weapon out there, can get up and down the floor, size, will be in a winning situation. Like, I'm leaning towards, you know, if they get an opportunity to do it, I would do it. I mean, obviously, parting with one of these guys is not going to be easy. You know, Kenrich Williams would have to be in it. You know, you could make a good offer.
I wanted to hold you up on that right there at that point, because somebody had told me on Twitter, they told me to ask you this about that. I'm glad Bryan brought up the shooting. Who exactly would OKC have to give up if they were to try to get Cam Johnson? I know Bryan loves this stuff. Who do you think they'd have?
I'm staring at contracts right now.
Yeah. I know he does. Like, what would it take for them, and how many picks, which Sam Presti has a lot of, how many picks would it take to get Cam Johnson away from the Nets?
Man, that's a good question, because I'm thinking 2 or 3 might be worth it, to be honest, man. Like, if we're talking about bringing someone in, and look, this is the new NBA, right? Obviously, you know, you got the second apron and all that, and I feel like second round picks are more valuable than ever, right? That we see before. But, you know, I mean, just looking at, again, I put an article together about this, and I'm trying to get it up right now. But yeah, I just feel like adding one of these bench guys in the way that they've been playing lately would be a huge part of the deal. Kenrich Williams, I believe it is
$6.7 million.
Yeah, no, but who's the other one, man? I'm losing. I'm forgetting who.
Not Cason Wallace, right?
No, not Cason.
Isaiah Joe's at 12.9.
Isaiah Joe, that's who. Isaiah Joe, he'd have to be in closer. It.
Yeah.
So I think that's the part that fans would be like, ooh, you know, because that's the reception I got when I put the article together. So it's him, Johnson, and then another player. And then obviously it would be stacked with picks. I mean, that's sort of what would entice the Nets, you know, with how many draft picks these guys have coming down. And, you know, listen, I'm a big fan of when bringing in Alex Caruso, but between injuries and between him shooting last time I checked, like 32% from behind the arc, like and listen, I get it. There's that period where you have to adapt and all that stuff, and what he does defensively and deflections and all that stuff, that matters for sure. And I think that they're a much stronger team when he's out there on that end. But adding another shooter, another guy who can that you can rely on for that 3-point shot at a higher mark, you know, it might be worth doing. Because to answer your question, man, I think that's my only concern a bit with shooting, because I just think what they do in terms of like attacking the rim, you know, you guys talked about it earlier, like how open some of these guys are. I mean, we saw it against the Celtics with Lou Dort. I mean, that's a byproduct of that for sure, and the defense, you know. So I just think if you add a little bit more shooting to this team, they would be. They're still my favorite to win the Western Conference, but I think it would put them at a higher. They'd be an even scarier team out west for sure.
Oh yeah, they'd be scared, because I do think, like Bryan mentioned, I think that is the Achilles heel for them is the shooting. We saw that in the NBA Cup Finals game against the Bucks, right? They go cold from downtown, and that really hurt them in that one. But I think let me ask you this, Josue, have we seen the best of OKC yet? Because we talked about the fact that we haven't seen much of Chet this year. They could add a shooter like Cam Johnson. This team could be scarier. Have we seen the best of this team yet? They looked really good in what we saw them do against the Knicks, the Celtics, even in the loss to the Cavs. They still look good. They look the part, like they could be a champion. But have we seen the best of them yet?
I don't think we have, man. That's the scary part.
That's scary. Man,
Isaiah Hartenstein hasn't even played a game alongside Chet Holmgren. And that's the whole reason why they got his ass, right? I mean, that's the reason why they brought him in. I mean, it was for depth. You know, obviously this is an ideal. I mean, it is an ideal, you know, for him to go down the way he did, but they were able to plug him right into the starting five. You know, he's lost 3 games since since his debut. What was it, about 12 games into the season? You know, he's been healthy ever since, and we still haven't seen what this team looks like when they're both out there. Not to say that they'll both start. We'll see what Mark does with that, because he shuffles lineups a lot. So sometimes it's hard to pinpoint like what's the starting five. But I'm sure, when Holmgren is back, he's gonna have a lot of fun mixing and matching and coming up with the right starting five. But either way, just having him in the rotation, I mean, man, like I knew he was a two-way player, but his passing, there's a lot of stuff I didn't know about him as much, and now seeing it, the way it's played out with the Thunder, it's incredible, man. He's having a blast too, man. That's the fun part. He's also keeping up with the Knicks, though. He did tell us that during Christmas Day he was enjoying that game, and he keeps in contact with those guys, with his former teammates. But yeah, man, Knicks couldn't give him that dough, man. They couldn't give him that. They offered that he wanted, so he went to OKC, and it's been a seamless fit with
yeah.
him.
I'm happy to see him get his money. I know the Knicks fans miss him here, and he was so integral to this Knicks team last year. We got Knicks 100 a game, so the hard money is stretching much further than what it here. Yeah, taxes, my friend. Yes, taxes and the cost of living changes a lot of that. Knicks 100.
I'm saving out here, fellas. Saving though.
I'm sure you are. I am sure you are.
I don't even want to tell you what a one bedroom is out here, man.
Don't make us mad. We don't need to be mad.
Actually, no. Tell us, because I'm curious.
Yeah. Tell Bryan, because he's considering moving to Oklahoma City.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I couldn't survive there. Listen, no offense to people who live in like Oklahoma City, for example, but like I would say there are reasons why one bedrooms may cost a certain thing out there.
Yeah, the look on your face was so funny. You gave one of these like
it's overpriced. Look, we're overpriced here, but that's a political discussion for another day. The housing crisis.
And Boston's not that far behind from you guys, man. Boston was trying to be like New York, man. It's crazy.
Miami, San Francisco, you already know. All right, let me ask you this, Josue, because we already put Cam Johnson on the Oklahoma City Thunder, for a couple first round picks. Maybe
Isaiah Joe.
Maybe Jang has to be in the deal also to make the money work. We already mentioned
Jang, another one. Yeah, it's got to be a mix of those. Three of those four players got to be a mix of that, right?
Yeah, we've already.
They can match up.
We've already done that, but like whether or not they make a move, I mean, what's their closing lineup going to be looking like on a consistent basis? Because we already talked about how Chet and Isaiah Hartenstein haven't played together yet. There are going to be times where they're out there together on the floor, and there are going to be times where they're sort of splitting time, and you could just rotate in one and have one in at all times. But what is that closing lineup going to look like? Because somebody's going to have to get squeezed. And I think you're probably going to answer it this way. It's not going to be the same on a game-to-game basis. But still, what is that process going to look like?
Honestly, man, I would love to see those two guys in at the end of games, man. Like, I just think the versatility you have between Chet and Isaiah, you couple that with J-Dub, Jalen Williams, SGA, Lou Dort. That's it for me, man. I think you get a little bit of everything in that five. We just haven't seen it, man. Like that's the thing. I mean, Hartenstein he missed the entire preseason. Like he was hurt going in. They didn't overlap when Chet went down 10 games in. There was a 2-game stretch or 6-day stretch where they had to go. They signed Brandon Colson, who they just waived recently, and he didn't even play much, but they just sort of had to have that depth, But they were able to pull it off anyways because Jalen Williams became the center for that throughout that stretch. And then Hartenstein came back. He didn't start his first game, but he's been starting ever since. So I just think he's really adapted to being that starting big man. And when you look at the struggles that we saw against the Cavs, I would love to see those two just find that continuity, find that chemistry as soon as possible, and then going into the playoffs and just had that sort of that depth lineup. I mean, look, maybe it's not the way they start, but if that's the way they finish, I just think that would be very intimidating for a lot of teams when you have 20-plus score and a big and Chet Holmgren who can stretch the floor. Isaiah Hartenstein, who can do it a little bit. He's talked about trying to get his 3-point shot back into his game. But either way, man, between his passing and his defending, that's a lot for opposing teams to deal with, in the paint and just overall when you got SGA and Jalen Williams with them as well.
Yeah, that versatility could be key into what their closing lineup is. A couple more things for you, Josue. We got our guy, Greg Film Stuff. He had a question for you. He said, since Josue is here, what player does Jalen Williams remind you of? He looks like a two-way James Harden to me. Is there a player comp that you have for Jalen Williams?
Honestly, man, I know it just came from Boston, but sometimes I see a little Jalen in him. Jalen Brown a little bit. But the only thing is, man, and this is something he's been improving on is trying to get to the free throw line.
Oh,
and
I thought you were gonna say he passes more.
Oh, that too. Yeah, he does pass more. But yeah,
Bryan
I mean,
has to
yeah.
get that in if you know Bryan.
I mean, yeah.
Hey,
yeah,
I like Jaylen Brown. I think people are too hard on Jaylen Brown. Like he won Eastern Conference Finals MVP and Finals MVP, but Jason Tatum still. I'm not gonna do it here. But Josue, I have thoughts on that.
I see a little Harden. I mean, I guess in his taste, but not really. I don't. That's a good question though. I feel like he's like a hybrid between like Jaylen Brown and maybe a little Harden-ish, a little bit. But man, I like it when he's
I don't want to say he's like James Harden because I actually like Jalen Williams.
Well, I mean, when they're in a half court set, he kind of gives you that feel, but he's not doing the step back thing. It's kind of like a younger Harden. Yeah. But man, he's a talented player, man. He's a heck of a player. I just like to see him in those half court sets more often. I feel like a lot of times he gets going in transition and no one can stop him and he blows right past you. But man, people forget he's in his third year and this has to be his first All-Star season. He's only going to get better from now, man. My man's 23, so
I love his game. I love his game. So
I do as well. Yeah.
Couple more things for you. Knicks Thunder tomorrow night, round 2. First of all, are you in New York? Are you going to be there?
No, man. I'm still out here. OKC, man.
Damn, I thought I was going to see you at the Garden.
It's all right,
man. I would hit you up.
We're gonna get snow here too.
You would have hit me up, which is true. I know that. What's your expectations for this matchup? Because you got to think this is one the Knicks circled on the calendar. Now, I do want to let the people know the Thunder have not lost back-to-back games since November. It's been a long. I think it was November 17th and 19th, if I remember correctly. It's been a minute since they've lost back-to-back games. The Knicks are going to have this one circle on the calendar based on how they finished the last game. So they're going to be hungry. The Garden's going to be rocking for this one. Knicks fans are looking at this as a big test to see can you beat one of the upper echelon teams in the NBA.
Thunder minus 2.5 point favorites.
There you go. What's your expectation, taking the line aside? What's your expectation for this one, Josue?
Oh, hold on real quick. This guy, a young Kawhi. Very, very good comp.
Shout out to Troy.
Yes.
You know what, Troy, shout out to you.
I think that's what I had in my head more than
comp.
James Harden. Yeah,
I like that comp by Troy.
Did you see what he did to Julius Randle the other day?
Yeah, I did.
On defense?
I did.
Where Julius Randle had...
No, I didn't see
Knicks
that.
fans, you guys are very familiar with Julius Randle's work. His stubborn ass was very insistent on taking Jalen Williams one-on-one.
He waved it off. He said, I got it.
Dribble, spin, dribble, other spin, whatever. Deflection, steal, just ripped him. And then Julius Randle was obviously slow to try to run back on defense as Oklahoma City took the ball.
Obviously.
Just a classic negative Julius Randle possession.
I like Troy. I like Troy NYC's comp though. That's a good one, Troy.
That's a good one.
I like that one, Troy.
Yeah, especially when he was young, man, young Kawhi, hungry Kawhi. Yeah, I mean he was hungry for a while, but yeah, no. To answer your question though, I don't know, man. I think it's gonna be a really tough one for New York, and I don't like. It shouldn't be one of those games where they take away from it as like, oh man, like we gotta change something because of this loss. I just think right now, coming off of what happened against Cleveland, they're going to get a really strong performance out of these guys, and it won't just be SGA, But that's the key, though. I mean, how do you guys how do the Knicks limit him? I think is a big part of it, especially in the fourth quarter when he's going downhill, because that's the criteria, man. Like if it's close game, a lot of times he gets the ball in his hand, they'll let him cook, and for stretches against the Cavs, it seemed like they're going to get out of that, but then a couple of turnovers and the Cavs made them pay on the other end. So that was it for them. However, going into this game though, man, I wonder what kind of game Karl-Anthony Towns going to have, like at the Garden and all that, because I feel like if he has an explosive game, that keeps these guys in it, or even if they have a significant lead, it could go the next way. Either way, man, I think we're gonna have a really, really close game. I don't think it's gonna be one of those one team wins by like 10 or 12 or something like that. It's gonna be a good one.
All right, well, hoping for a good one at the Garden.
Do you think someone's gonna guard Aaron Wiggins in the fourth quarter?
Probably not. That they should though. They should. Jeez. He's slippery, man. He pops out open, and
it's fine. Karl-Anthony Towns is averaging like 50 million points and 70 million rebounds. So I think it'll be a close game. See what happens.
The depth might play a part, man. What about do you think McBride's gonna have a? He could have a good
if
big
he
game.
plays,
Yeah.
hamstring injuries suck. In case people
Yep.
have forgotten, you could be day to day for a couple months, as Jeremy Lin famously was when he was with the Nets.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Ridiculous. Yeah, hamstring injuries suck. Another reason why we're talking about the Knicks bench is because their best player coming off the bench ain't really playing right now. And this game is going to be a lot of fun. Also for bettors out there, by the way, Oklahoma City -2.5. It opened at -1.5. So if you want to bet on the Knicks, maybe wait, because you could probably get 3.5, or you could just bet the money line right now if you feel
it could move down if Miles McBride is playing. So it's a lot of movement you can see there.
I don't think Miles, all due respect, I don't think Miles McBride's
He's not moving to the point.
Much.
You don't he doesn't get a point.
Karl-Anthony Towns or Jalen Brunson and OG Anunoby would probably move the line pretty significantly.
Yeah, you're probably right.
You know? I hope we get a shootout between Brunson and SGA, man, or something. That'd be fun.
I want a dog fight. I want 88, 86.
No,
classic Madison Square Garden. You know what I mean?
I was gonna say that's some 90s MSG right there.
Brian always wants a 90s kind of basketball matchup. I don't know about that.
You know what I appreciate about the first time these two teams played each other?
The Josh Hart thing?
No, it felt like everything I felt like everything was in the lane. Everybody was driving. There weren't a ton of 3-point shots. Like there was a good balance.
The flow of that game was really good.
It was great.
Yeah, it was really good flow in that game. I really enjoyed it. Josue,
I love what Hart was saying about Hartenstein and all that, man. I love that stuff, man. NBA kind of back in that sense. I mean, we got some legit fights. We got guys talking smack, or whether it's friendly jabbing or not. It's good, man. It's good for the league.
except for Brian's boy Tyler Hero, who was out here, getting slammed and then walking away.
I forgot that's your boy.
Amen Thompson's on my fantasy team. I'll have you know. Both of them actually.
Except for that.
I forgot Hero. That's your dude.
You know I don't like Tyler Hero like
that's your boy. That's your boy.
Bam it.
He looked over. He said, "Y'all still fighting?" I'm gonna chill over here.
Yeah, I didn't like anything about that.
He threw Tyler Hero to the ground, and then Terry Rozier just immediately.
He's a real one. He's a real one.
Boston Celtic just immediately like, yo, I don't care that this dude took my starting spot. Like, I'm on your ass.
No, he got to that dude in like 2.5 seconds. That was huge. He saw one body fly. He was like, "Oh, that's my man." Gone. He was. Yeah,
there's a boxing montage out there of Terry Rozier like doing some of the training. Not terrible. But
yeah, I can see that.
You make that face, but like if you're like 6 feet tall in the NBA, like you gotta be able to like defend yourself.
I want to be very clear on something here. I am not surprised that Terry Rozier will be boxing, or like what Josue said, Terry Rozier. If you know about Terry Rozier and where Terry Rozier is from, he is that not going back energy. And
he has a tattoo on the back of his head.
Right. But what I'm saying is, I'm just surprised somebody actually had the montage out there of him boxing. That's more surprising to me.
I can tell you all
never
the
underestimate a dude with a tat on the back of his head, man.
I can tell you all the NBA players that have hands. I can tell you all the NBA players that have hands. Tyler Hero's not one of them. We've seen him on the pads. All right. Damian Lillard has hands. Jay Crowder, his form looks all right. A little slow, but he's like 6'8", whatever. Terry Rozier's fine. I actually want to see some Knicks sort of mix it up a little bit. I feel like there's some potential on this team.
I like this.
Jalen Brunson's got good size for like a light heavyweight, not for nothing.
Oh, I feel like he got hands. I feel like, if you get him mad enough, yeah, for sure.
I wouldn't sleep on Jalen Brunson either. I'm with you guys on that.
Pops trained him probably.
Sway, we appreciate the time, man.
Always, man.
Glad you are doing well out in OKC. Everybody check out Josue on Clutch Points. Does a great job covering the Thunder. Hopefully we talk to you again. I mean, next time if we talk to you, if it's a Knicks Thunder finals, which a lot of Knicks fans are hoping for. I don't know if that's
that'd be
happen,
wild.
That'd be crazy.
That'd be wild,
man. I'm still mad. I'm still mad at the Knicks for not giving me a Celtics Knicks Eastern Conference Finals, man. That Pacers game, man, I was so mad.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember you.
The way that series ended, I was so mad. I was like, I gotta go to freaking Indiana, man. Like, I was like, man.
I remember you messaged me that after the series ended. It was like, damn, I thought we were gonna get it. No, we didn't get it. But
I was telling everyone, we going to New York, man. We good. It'll be fun. We get a nice series. MSG on the stage.
Instead,
but watch it happen. Watch it happen this year. When I'm not covering the Celtics no more.
That's how it will go.
For real.
That's exactly how it will go. All right, brother. Thank you so much. We appreciate you for the breakdown with the Thunder. And I'll hit you up during the Thunder game tomorrow. We'll see how this all plays out.
Sounds good, man. Appreciate you, Dex. All right, Brian. We'll talk, man. See y'all later.
Peace, man. That is Josue Pavón. Check him out with Clutch Points. Like I said, does a great job covering the Oklahoma City Thunder. And we love that Josue's out there loving it in Oklahoma City, which we're trying to get Bryan to move to. We're trying to get Bryan out there in OKC.
I'm way too New York for that.
Yeah, I can see that. I thought Josue was way too northeast for that, but nah, he's doing just fine out there. All right, we thank you everybody for checking in. We see everybody checking in on the YouTube channel. Thank you for everybody sending in their comments. Greg, Troy, Knicks 100 a game. Hey, my man Hector with Uptown Sports was in the building. We appreciate y'all checking in and rocking with us on a Thursday night. Okay.
Sammy was in here too. We got a couple others as well.
Got a couple others in here.
You know what we're about to do.
You know what we're about to do. Brian's favorite time to talk.
Yes.
Real or not, is Bryan moving to OKC? Anybody got any thoughts on that? No, we're playing on that. All right. Since we've been talking about the minutes police, since we've been talking about the fact that the Knicks lack depth, that was a topic of the show earlier this week. I talked to Stefan Bondi about it. I have a feeling this is a topic that is not going away anytime soon, especially with the trade deadline coming up, especially with some of the tougher competition the Knicks have to play later this month, again tomorrow night against the Thunder. Real or not, will at least two Knicks finish the season in the top 5 of total minutes played in the league? Now, top 3 players, NBA players in minutes this season, you see it on the screen, folks. Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, and OG Anunoby. They are the top 3 in the NBA. Top 3. Okay? Brunson is 7th. Cat is 16th. Right? All the starters are playing a lot of minutes. Okay? A lot of minutes. Some of you are concerned. But will 2 of them finish in the top 5? Really not, Bryan. What do you say? I feel
real.
Like this is
So real. It's Mikal and Josh Hart. OG Anunoby is the one where I'm like, he might actually miss some time. And that's sort of the concern here, is because somebody may miss time because they're playing so damn much. And that's what sort of sends us sideways. But yeah, it's Mikal Bridges and Josh Hart. Those are the ones. Josh Hart seemingly gets banged up all the time, plays through it. And Mikal Bridges so far is indestructible. Knock on wood that continues. But as I've told you, this is the ultimate test between Thibs and Mikal Bridges to see who wins out. And right now, Mikal Bridges is doing quite fine.
I think this is real too. I think the fact that you already have their 3 for 3 in the top 3 feels like a lock. You know, the odds on this are like minus 100,000.
I don't know if they're that short or long, but
long.
Yeah, no.
But this to me is real. Now, if the 2 players that you mentioned, they are generally built for this. Until they're not, which is always my thing. Yeah. You can be built for something until you're not.
Yep.
We'll see. What I will say with
you're only not injury prone until you get hurt.
Right. What I will say with this, and this can further this conversation for us, is the Knicks. I know, Bryan, you feel like they need to do something. I think a lot of fans think they need to do something. I don't know if they can do it this season. I think it's much more likely the Knicks improve their depth through some of the young players we've talked about becoming into the rotation players, maybe like a Tyler Kolek next year, maybe like a Pacome Dadier. I think that's a huge part of the reason Knicks drafted those guys. That's what got them. I think they're more about the longer-term plans for their depth. But, you know, I get it. Everybody wants instant gratification. They want it to pay off now. Also, I want to be noted that I get it. You don't want to waste years when you have a window. I understand all that. However, you have to understand that we are in a different NBA. It is harder with these aprons to have teams that are that deep. Oklahoma City is an anomaly, folks. They are an anomaly in the depth that they have. They really are. Then you have Boston, who's got their rotations been together for a while, but they're about to be really expensive to keep together because of the second apron. So these are things you have to watch. I think there's actually a better chance. I understand nobody wants to hear it, that the Knicks are a better team and a deeper team next season than they are this season. I know that's not comforting for right now, but this is the world that we live in. So we'll see. All right. Next, for real or not, we talked about the Boston Celtics. Will the Knicks find a way to finish ahead of the Celtics in the standings this season? It was all good a week ago. They were just half a game behind the Celtics. Now they're 2.5 games behind the Celtics. Do you think they can catch the Celtics and pass them and win their first Atlantic Division title since 2012, 2013? Real or not, Bryan?
Can I argue that there's a better chance they're caught by the Magic? Because the Magic are still.
Why are you trying to piss people off?
I'm just saying because like the Knicks just had the.
You know how annoyed. Do you know how annoyed Knicks fans would be? And this is I like.
They're probably really annoyed with me right now. Yeah.
You know how annoyed they'll be if they get caught by the Magic right now. No shade to the Magic because I love how the Magic.
They're 3 games out, but they keep being competitive, and their defense is good enough regardless of who's out there, and that's generally a recipe for, hey, you can punch above your weight for a second straight season. In terms of the standings. Whereas with the Knicks, it's like you're playing all these guys all these minutes. You just got past the easy part of your schedule. You're getting more real teams now, quote unquote real teams. Every team in the NBA is a real team except the Washington Wizards. And when you look at just the schedule, the minutes, can guys wear down? You concerned about that? Like, to me, the Celtics one is a no. And to me, there's a conversation to be had about, like, as Orlando gets healthier, because Paolo Banchero is now reportedly coming back soon. And Franz Wagner, we expect to see him at some point down the line. Mo Wagner's out, but that is what it is. I think there's a conversation to be had, like, hey, can they keep Orlando off of them? I think ultimately they will, and ultimately they finish 3 is where I'm at. So I don't think this is real, but I'd watch for Orlando too, because sneakily, like, they're still like way above water despite all their injuries.
I'm going to go with, nobody's going to like my answer here. I'm going to go with half real. Okay. Now hear me out. I think this kind of could be real for the Knicks, because I think the Knicks, and I think a lot of this depends on what we see from them tomorrow. I really do. The Knicks, I think, are going to wake up for some of these opponents, these tough opponents. It's just, do they have the depth to finish these games? The Celtics, on the other hand, we saw this stretch before the new year where they went 4-4 and they looked really bored and disinterested in these games. And I understand why they'll be bored and disinterested in these games. They're the champs. They know what they need to do. They're not worried about these middle of the week games against Orlando or Sacramento or some team like that. No shade to those teams. I think we can get another stretch where Boston gets bored here again.
Porzingis is out too.
Porzingis is out too. I think that gives the Knicks a chance to at least catch them. Now, am I willing to go bet and say they'll finish ahead of them? Not necessarily willing to do that, especially with what we've been talking about with the depth issues. But I do think the Knicks got within half a game last week. It wouldn't shock me if they're right neck and neck with them at the end of this month. But I think this is an important month for the Knicks. These next 3 weeks are really important for the Knicks. I think the Knicks are going to have a chance for this. And I think having something to fight for could be good for this team this season if they want to try to get the 2 seed, if they want to try to get home court advantage, if they have to play Boston in the second round. I do think that's important. I think the Knicks hold off Orlando too, but I'm kind of with you, Bryan. I wouldn't sleep with them. So I'm giving this a half real. I'm leaning to, I think they could, man. I think they could win the Atlantic Division title. I'm not ready to hand it to the Celtics just yet.
Yeah, I mean, Orlando's got a tough schedule coming up, but again, like, they've just been able to overcome and keep above water. So we'll see.
They have, and it's like D'Angelo. You've been able to overcome until you cannot. We will see. We will see if they're able to do that. All right, last one, and another note that our producer Jeff mentioned there. The Knicks do have the head-to-head on Orlando. They've won 3 out of 4 contests this year, so that is one thing in terms of a tiebreaker that the Knicks would hold over them.
Knicks just got to stay healthy. That's the.
So Knicks are technically 4 games up on Orlando if you really think about it, because they have the head-to-head there, and we will see how that plays out. But our last real or not for this week involves back to depth, and a topic that you guys love to talk about,
minutes
especially
police,
the
baby.
minutes police. Minutes police are activated here. Tom Thibodeau needs to trust the bench more. And here's what I want. For the people out there that saying Tom Thibodeau trusts the bench more, please answer Bryan's question. Please state, you got to state who you want to play, how many minutes, when they should play. I respect Troy, because Troy said at least give some of these guys some shine when it's a blowout. He's not wrong. Troy's not wrong about this at all. I think he makes a fair point. Could some of these guys get some more run when it's a blowout, when they're up 20? I agree. Could Tom Thibodeau have some more trust there? I agree with Mr. Troy NYC on that. But if you're going to tell me he needs to trust the bench more, my thing is about it is how. How, who, what kind of minutes? I'm not saying you're wrong. I just want to hear your plan. That's all I'm saying. Not saying to anybody, you say this is going to be ridiculous. Not saying that. But what we are going to ask Bryan here is, does Tibbs need to trust the bench more? And Bryan has to come up with the people that he needs to trust more to put out there. So, Bryan, real or not, Tom Thibodeau needs to trust this Knicks bench a bit more.
I fundamentally believe in depth. So I want to say yes. The problem is, if you look at the bench, we were giving praise to Campaign for his play a while ago. That has since, it looks a little bit different now. For the season, he's only shooting 42%, which for a backup point guard, you kind of want better than that, for example. Precious Achiuwa, he's made an impact off the bench, but he's playing 19 minutes a game. Do I want to advocate for more Precious Achiuwa minutes than that? Not necessarily. I feel like that's kind of what he's there to do. And in spots, you get to 25 or whatever the case may be. I think in a roundabout way, here's what can be true. Everyone in the starting five could probably play 1 to 2 fewer minutes each, maybe 3 in the case of Mikal Bridges, who's at 39 per game. I think you can do that, but I don't know if there's anyone on the bench where I'm they absolutely have to play more, because Landry Shamet is there for his shooting. He's shooting 23% from 3. Precious Achiuwa is where he is. Campaign, 15 minutes a game for Campaign. That's kind of what you want out of Campaign at most. You feel like if it's going to be 20, 22 minutes a game, that's too much Campaign. And it really comes down to the kids. That's really what it comes down to. It comes down to Ariel Hawk-Purdy's, for example, Tyler Kolek's, Dadier. And coming up, because we've talked about, hey, maybe in blowouts this could be the case, you have Oklahoma City, Milwaukee, and Detroit at home. Milwaukee, Detroit's a back-to-back. Detroit, sneakily, you've seen them this season. This is a team that could make the play-in, maybe the playoffs, the way the Eastern Conference is looking. This is not Detroit from last year or the year before. And then you have at Philadelphia. That's the second of a back-to-back for Philadelphia. They play Oklahoma City the day before. So we'll see how that one goes. Minnesota, they might blow them out again. Let's be honest. Julius Randle's return also. That's an exciting one.
I will be in the building for that.
We're going to be talking about that next week, actually.
Yep.
And then, you have Atlanta, then at Brooklyn, Sacramento, Memphis, Nuggets, Lakers, Rockets, all at home. There's not a lot of blowout opportunities coming up. So I think it's more of a marginal thing where, you can trust the bench a little bit more from a marginal basis. So, this is somewhat real, but there's no one right now other than the rookies where you're they absolutely have to play more, and the rookies probably need to prove themselves more to their head coach in order to get those minutes. So it's difficult.
Yeah, it depends on how you feel. If you think that the rookies have to prove themselves and practice more to get the playing time, then you're going to be okay, I rock with that. If you don't, and you think that they should get, let's say what Bryan says is, Bryan said you shave 2 minutes off. I'm going to throw this number off for every starter right now. That is 10 more minutes a game that you can divvy up however you choose to feel like. Let's say, I'm just going to throw this out. Let's say you just decide, even if it's just for the first half, okay, you're going to give 5 minutes to Pacome Dadier, 5 minutes to Tyler Kolek. Do I think that can help the team? Yeah, I do.
I'll probably do 4 Dadier, 4 Hawk-Purdy, 3 Kolek, or switch Dadier and Kolek, whatever. But you could do it. But that's 11 minutes. That's stupid. You can do one of them, 4 for one of them,
just
and
comes
3
down
for
to
2 of the others. Yes.
Do you think there's value in doing that? Right? Do you think that helps make the team better? Gerard Hector, our friend who I mentioned before, would say yes, because they're going to learn from the mistakes they made. They're getting real NBA minutes in minutes that count. You're not just throwing them in blowout situations, although I agree with Troy that you could find time to throw them in blowout situations. There's learning experiences for them. Are you really doing I think it's a fair question. Are you doing the best by your team if you're not letting these young players truly develop and get NBA minutes? All these guys we've seen, Kolek kill it in the G League, which shows those guys are NBA players. Dadier has put up big numbers in the G League. We've seen some solid numbers from Hawk-Purdy in the G League down at Westchester. But should these guys be learning? I personally think you should. I think you could find some first half minutes for them. Okay. Maybe not in all the games, maybe not in some of the bigger games, or so against some of the more versatile teams. Could you find minutes for them Sunday against Milwaukee? Yeah, I think you could. Sure, I think you could.
Thin teams against a thin team.
Milwaukee, why not?
Denver, because Denver's bench isn't awesome either.
But here's the thing. you're right to do it against the thin teams, but you also kind of need to do it against the deeper teams because that's how the deeper teams beat you because they have depth and you do not.
Yeah,
maybe
true.
if you play and start playing against some of the thin
Great
teams,
point.
then you can actually have them ready for a spot minute or two, whatever it may be, against some of these deeper teams, right? You gotta get them ready at some point. And I think Tibbs in his mind, I don't know this, but I just think he's gonna go for it every chance he can get and tries to squeeze as much he can get out of the starters. And I am not sure. I do think the Tibbs running guys into the ground narrative and the stuff people would say, I think that's overblown. Just like I think it's overblown when people say he doesn't play kids. Like I've just proved to you, I could just prove in the last 4 years, kids that he did play, that as rookies that had significant rotation minutes. He's played guys. You know what his thing is. It's about defense. I'm not saying that I agree with it because I don't agree with it 100%. Yeah, is Tyler Kolek going to mess up and make some bad defensive rotations? Probably. Is Pacome Dadier going to make some mistakes? Yeah, probably. Is Huck Purdy probably going to make some mistakes? Yeah, probably. We've seen Jericho Sims do this. We've watched this. So, but they got to learn somehow. You can't gain experience if you don't give experience. So at some point, you got to do it. It's a chicken and egg thing. I don't want to act, again, not saying that Tom Thibodeau has not played young players because he has. That narrative needs to die. It's not true, especially during his Knicks tenure. He's also not played young players that some of y'all out there who are Knicks fans thought were good and thought should be playing minutes and damn sure didn't deserve playing minutes like Cam Reddish.
I was going to say Alonzo Trier.
You're going way back. You're going way back today.
But that wasn't him, though.
But
that was before.
Cam Reddish to play so bad. And it was like, and then they were mad when they traded Cam Reddish for Josh Hart, which nobody would say today because that would be ridiculous, right? Like it would be that was a great trade. And I knew that at the time. I think it's real though. I think Tibbs needs to what I would say, if we want to say trust the bench more, he needs to find some first half minutes for some of these young guys.
For the kids. It's them specifically.
Just because of what I said, which is, well, I'm with everything that Bryan said about minutes. I agree. I don't really want to be, if you're playing campaign more than 15 minutes a game, that is a problem, sir. Yes. If you're playing pressure 2 or more than 19, 20 minutes a game, that is a problem, sir. But what if those guys go down? Now you're asking a lot out of Tyler Kolek. What, are you going to not trust it further and shrink the rotation even more? Or you're going to have to start living where, can I trust him for 10 minutes a game? Well, how do you get ready? Have him get ready for that.
Correct.
Give him a couple of minutes here in the first half, especially against some thin teams, as you said, my friend.
And if you're not, then you have to go shopping with Mitchell Robinson then and just get pieces, like get a couple depth pieces. Like I know you might not get a ton, but I feel like there's going to be enough interest out there because the contract it's not an awful deal considering like today's NBA. Fine. Yeah. And I know teams don't want contracts that go beyond 2020.
I just don't know if people want the contract, which has a year after this year on it, with someone who's very injury prone. That's the trepidation I think you're going to have for teams in terms of his value.
Let me give you the contract.
We'll see. He's got 1 year left, I believe, at $13 or $14 million. So, yeah. We got Keen Sauce here who says, Kolek, let him run the second unit already. So, Keen Sauce, let me know this. Do you want to see Kolek, when you say run the second unit, so we are clear, do you want him to run the second unit over campaign? Like you want him as the primary backup point guard? Is that
sounds like to me? That's basically campaigns.
So you're done with campaign. Just
15,
done.
16, 17 minutes per game. It's 15, but sometimes he plays more. Also, Deuce McBride. I mean, I don't think this is an over Deuce McBride comment.
Nah. I don't think that's what
Mitchell Robinson's 14.3 this year, 12.9 next year, and that's it. Which teams seem to be gearing up. Like there's a couple people who think in NBA media space, there's a couple people who think NBA free agency is quote unquote coming back in 2026 because of where we're heading with the second apron. Like free agency might actually have to be an option now because teams may be more willing to just let players walk, like a Paul George, like Washington arguably should have done with Bradley Beal, like the Bulls maybe looked like they were going to do at one time with Zach LaVine before signing him to that extension. We'll see how Jimmy Butler's situation in Miami plays out, but yeah, I think Mitchell Robinson's contract is absolutely movable. And if you can do that, then, whatever. And the other piece of this is the whole depth thing, to put a bow on it, is if Mitchell Robinson, if he can give you anything, if you're willing to wait longer and wait for his ramp up process, however long that may be, when he actually does come back and is cleared for contact and is actually playing, like, he can fix a lot of their issues from a defensive standpoint if he's healthy, but there's just a lot of ifs, and he's gotten hurt a lot. So it's a tough situation to sort of navigate through. But I'll give the Knicks front office credit, because I've told you this is the smartest that they've been in my lifetime. And I think they'll be diligent in how they ultimately navigate this and figure it out.
I trust the front office and what they've done. I think they're going to be diligent. I think they're going to wait. And I think if they don't make a move at the deadline, it is not the end of the world. In fact, I do. Keen Sauce, I did see your points. You said take some of Payne's minutes. We were just asking for clarification. So I get that. It'll pay big dividends, give him some minutes now. I don't disagree with you on that. Also would like to be able to play Big versus OKC this time around. That'll be interesting. That'd be really interesting. So frustrating watching them guard with fours, etc., where he can just bang on them when they put Sai on Josh. SGA. Sorry.
The thing with that is, though, like, they're also, like, just great at playing the passing lanes and ultimately just not wearing you down in a traditional sense, but they're just in your face all the time. Like,
they've got so much length and they can cover so much ground.
Speed too, yeah.
And I got you, Keen. I knew you meant Cat on that. I got you here. That point about Cat being guarded with fours or sometimes smaller players is what you're going to see some of the elite defensive teams do to frustrate the Knicks. We saw Boston do this on opening night. I think you're going to see this, and the Knicks are going to have to. This is something they're going to have to figure out. They're going to see. So Drew Holiday on Cat, and you want to see him take advantage of it. And Cat's been really good at attacking the rim. I want to give him credit. He's been very aggressive in that regard and has been really good on the glass. So we will see. And yes, Keen Sauce, they also did put Hartenstein on Josh Hart. Now, to that point, and I like you bringing this up, to that point, that's something that Josh Hart is going to have to adjust to as well, right? It's like when you see this, you got to make it pay. What OKC is betting on the situation, as you know, Brian, is okay, is Josh Hart going to be hesitant? Is he going to let it fly? When Josh Hart is confident in letting it fly, or willing to make his read, put the ball on the floor, attack the rim, he's been really good. When he hesitates, not so good. Which Josh Hart will you see if you see that matchup where Isaiah Hartenstein is on Josh Hart? That's going to be a very interesting matchup to watch. So
2 for 7 from 3. 2 for 7 from 3 in that game.
By the way, and that was not a good Josh Hart game. Josh Hart, who came off the previous game and played really good to that 9-game winning streak. He had a triple-double, I believe, in the previous game. Did not have a good game.
He scored that game. Like, he got his 19. I thought he was driving well, but also, like, to your point, he wasn't as impactful in the other areas as he wasn't. Yeah. He
did not. And I think Josh knows that. This is one thing I'll say before we go, because we've been going long. We got to wrap up here.
Yeah.
I think that I expect the Knicks' energy to be different. I think they were bothered by the loss. I think they know how close they were by the loss. The thing that concerns me is Miles McBride playing? Is Tom Thibodeau, to the question that Bryan asked, which I still didn't really say if it was real or not, and I'll get to that in a second, is he going to make any adjustments in this game in terms of minutes? Like, that is something to really watch here, right? Like, that's because I'm telling you, Bryan and I texted right at the end of that last OKC game, and I tweeted about something Bryan said to me, which was like, yo, man, like, this shows a lot of the issues with the depth on this team.
All starters play 40-plus minutes.
Right.
All of them.
That's
no one from OKC did. And OKC went 10 deep. The Knicks went 8 deep. OKC had 3 of their 5 guys coming off the bench play like 13 minutes plus, one of them in the 20s. The Knicks just didn't elect to go that deep into it.
Not sustainable against a team that good. And yes, they are that good, folks. Right? Like, that's not sustainable for that. So something to watch. So to just put a bow on this and talk about Bryan's real or not, right? Tibbs has to trust the bench more. And I think it's some of what Keen Sauce has been saying here. I think it's some of what Troy's been saying here. I think some of what Greg has been saying here. I think it's all of that together, right? Got to just find some minutes in the first half for these guys. And I think that could be really dope for this team. Keen Sauce, shout out to you. Said y'all the best. Just hope we keep pace with Boston. The Cavs looking mean. Yeah, I was a little sus. I was a little sus on the Cavs, but I might be coming around and like shutting up on that. Not that I thought they were totally suspect. I just needed to see them do something too against a real team. They had something to prove, but they beaten some real teams. They beat Boston. You seen them beat OKC. They beat some other good teams in
the Knicks
the
at
West.
the Garden early in the year too.
Garden early in the season. Nick, if you're a Knicks fan, this is an exciting time. You want to see what they can do against some of these teams. Look, they came up short last Friday. Can they come up big this Friday? We talked about Minnesota coming up. They got Milwaukee. They got Philly, who's starting to get a little healthier. You got Boston in the first day of next month coming up. You got the Cavs coming down. There's two other games I was going to at the end of this.
Some good Western Conference ones too, where
Denver,
they get Denver and the Lakers.
Denver, Memphis, Lakers.
And the Lakers, yeah.
And Lakers at the end of the month. I knew there was a couple games I was going to be going to at the end of the month. Denver and Memphis coming to town. I'm excited to be there and see those games and see that. So that's going to be good. Keen Sauce, we appreciate you, man, for coming to. Nostalgic Nick, yo, what's up, man? Blessings to the panel. We appreciate you for checking in. I appreciate everybody. Thank you, Nostalgic Nick. We appreciate. Hey, I appreciate the people. We are nothing without the people, and we appreciate your support and just rocking with you. We just try to give you the best nuanced conversation, bring you some dope guests, continue the conversation. This is what we're trying to do here. I'm blessed to do it with my friend Bryan. So thank y'all. I just say that. Like you guys make it fun, and we enjoy the intelligent interaction that we get to have with the fans. A lot of people made some great points tonight. So we thank you for that. Bryan, I'm looking forward to this game tomorrow. I will be there.
Me too.
Yep. I expect the Garden crowd to be rocking. We'll have some stuff on social tomorrow here with the New York Post Sports. Coming up for everybody, we also will be, obviously, our next show will be on Monday. Still not sure about a guest. We're kind of waiting to see what happens in this game. What happens on Friday is going to determine a lot about what I talk about for this weekend show, and also what happens on Sunday, because we'll probably be taping after the Milwaukee game. So a lot of that will be determined on that. So we'll see, but we'll have a good show for you next week. We'll see what the Knicks do. It should be a really interesting weekend. It should be a really interesting weekend. Here's all I'm going to say. Bryan, don't jump out the window. Don't move to OKC on me. You know what I'm saying? If they lose this game, don't do that.
By the way, all that I was talking about Orlando, all the props I gave them, they're losing 78-62 at the end of the third quarter against Minnesota.
Who are they losing to? I'm sorry?
Minnesota.
Okay.
That's fantastic.
Minnesota.
That's just excellent right there.
See, you got to move you down to Orlando. Hey, thank you everybody for checking in. Nostalgic Nick, appreciate you.
I'm Puerto Rican and plenty of us in Orlando.
Plenty of y'all down there.
That's for sure. None of us are in Oklahoma, but Orlando.
That is true. That is true. Thank you, Troy. I appreciate you, man, and checking in. And good call by you again with the Kawhi Jalen Williams comp. I thought that was a good one. Shout out to Troy and that. I was like, sometimes people make comps and I'll be like, now, one thing I will say, Troy, I do have to add this before we go, and I don't know if this is part of this because you're not guilty. Troy, you are not guilty of this. Bryan knows where I'm going. I think we all do this with player comps. I'm not saying you're guilty, Troy. I love you, my guy. What I'm saying is it because of the cornrows? Is it the cornrows? I'm just asking. I know there's more to it. I know he plays great D. You know what I'm saying? I know he's physical. He's a good scorer. I love the comp, don't get me wrong, but I think the cornrows help. That's all I'm saying. I'm just saying I think the cornrows help. That is all. That is all. Troy, let me know. If the cornrows are part of it, it's okay. You can be honest, brother. We understand. We understand. Nostalgic Nick, thank you again, bro. Appreciate it. Thank you again to everybody. Thank you to our great producer, Jeff Stansberry, who's been rocking with us for almost an hour and a half on this one. I think it's the longest live we did. This was a fun one before a big game. We will be back next Thursday with another one. We'll know who we'll be talking about. Probably somebody from the Knicks content creation world. Yeah. It'll be before the Timberwolves game. Yeah. We had before last Timberwolves game, we had our guy Michael Grady on to talk about that. The Julius Randle homecoming. Oh man, I'm going to be at that game. I can't wait to see what the reception the fans give him. I can't wait. That is going to be fun. That's it. Thank you, everybody, once again for checking in. For Bryan Fonseca, I'm Dexter Henry. We will catch you next week, next Thursday night on New York Got Game. New taped episode coming on Monday afternoon. Appreciate everybody. And until next time, peace.
And thanks for watching New York Got Game. Boom shakalaka.